Hi guys, and welcome to my kitchen. Today I am going to be showing you a recipe for zucchini lasagna. You heard me right, zucchini lasagna. So we're replacing the pasta noodles, the lasagna noodles that you'd usually use, with zucchini. And it is really tasty. It's delicious. But not only that, you're getting your veggies in, and it makes you feel so much better than a traditional lasagna with pasta noodles. So if this sounds like something you'd like, let's go ahead and get started with this recipe. So the first thing we're going to do is cut some zucchini. So I'm just taking the top and bottom off of a large zucchini here. And if you've got a large zucchini, it'll probably take about 2 for one recipe. If you have smaller ones, probably about 4. Now what I'm doing here is just taking off a very thin spot from one of the sides so that my zucchini can sit flat on the cutting board while I slice it. Now I like to use thicker slices of zucchini for my lasagna because I feel like in the finished product it gives you more of a bite of the zucchini. It has more texture, but you can go thinner or thicker just depending on what your preference is. Now once you have your zucchini sliced, you want to lay it out on a plate or on a cooling rack that you can just have it laid out, and we're going to sprinkle this with some salt. We're going to go pretty generous with the salt. There's no specific amount. We just want to make sure all of it has some coverage of salt on there. And what that is going to do is draw the moisture out of this zucchini. The finished product is going to be pretty soupy even with doing this step because zucchini just has a lot of water in it, but you definitely want to do this to bring some of that moisture out. And then just set this to the side while we work on the rest of our lasagna parts. So in a skillet here I have just a drizzle of some olive oil, and I'm adding in 1 small onion chopped up and about 4 garlic cloves chopped up, and I just want to get that nice and browned up. Once that is browned, then I'm going to go ahead and add in about a pound of meat here. You can use any meat that you want. I believe that I used a meatloaf mix this night, which is like a little bit of ground beef and a little bit of pork. Any ground meat will work here. And you do want to just make sure that you season your meat as well. So about 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper. Once it's cooked through, just give it a taste to make sure it's got enough seasoning in there. Now you can see here Nathan is dabbing off some of the moisture that has come up from our zucchini. We'll do that one more time before we actually put it into our casserole dish. And then I am adding in some sauce to my ground meat mixture. Now I like to use 2 jars of sauce, so about 40 ounces of sauce. You can do less if you prefer it to be less saucy. I usually end up going with the 2. Now for our ricotta layer here, I'm using 16 ounces of a good quality ricotta, about ½ teaspoon of dried basil, and about ½ teaspoon of dried parsley. You can put in anything that you like here. And we're going to do about ½ teaspoon of black pepper and about ½ teaspoon of salt. We're also going to add in here about ½ cup, ½ cup to ½ cup of some Parmesan cheese, and just give that a real good mix there. If you have fresh basil, it's phenomenal in here. When I do have it on hand, I like to add it to my ricotta layer, but I didn't have any fresh basil today. And we're just going to set that ricotta aside here and start building our lasagna. So we're going to start off with a base of our meaty sauce here. And then we're going to start laying in our pieces of zucchini. And this is just kind of a puzzle piece, patchwork. You can cut them specifically to size if you want them all going in one direction. I just kind of try to fit them in however they fit naturally on here. Then we want to go ahead and put our layer of ricotta. Now, I usually only have enough room in my casserole dish for one layer of ricotta, so I'm just going to take all of this and just smooth it into our layer here. Now, after your ricotta layer is on, we're going to add one more layer of our zucchini here. Again, just kind of patchworking that in. This is always the odds and ends side of it. And then we're going to go ahead and just cover this up with another layer of our sauce. And after we've got our sauce layer on here, we're going to add on some shredded cheese. You're probably going to use about 1.5 cups, but you can use less or more as desired. And then we want to go ahead and get this onto a baking tray. You definitely want to do that so it doesn't spill over into your oven. It should go into an oven preheated to 425 degrees, and you're going to cook it for anywhere between 20 to 35 minutes. The zucchini doesn't need long to cook through. Everything else is cooked, so really we're just getting the zucchini slightly cooked and the top nice and melty.